One of the most puzzling elements of the 2016 election, at least for a lot of Americans, was the millions of voters who switched from voting for Barack Obama in 2012 to Donald Trump in 2016. Somewhere between 6.7 million and 9.2 million Americans switched this way. Given that the 2016 election was decided by 40,000 votes, it's fair to say that Obama-Trump switches were one of the key reasons that Hillary Clinton lost. And the only reason they switched was because Trump had thrown in the right keywords in it. Like, he's a Lord of the President. Obama was making America into a third world country. And Hillary and her emails, you know, like, lock her up. Like, you know. The exist. I digress, so I'm sorry. Back to Vox.com. The existence of these voters have served as evidence that the most plausible explanation for what happened in 2016, that Trump's campaign tapped into the racism of white America to win pivotal states, is wrong. Okay. The existence of those voters has served as evidence that the most plausible explanation for what happened in 2016, that is, the Trump campaign tapped into the racism of white Americans to win pivotal states, is wrong. How could white Americans who voted for a black president in the past be racist? Or so the thinking goes. Clinton suffered her biggest losses in the places where Obama was strongest amongst white voters. It's not a simple racism stories, the New York Times' Nate Cohn wrote on the night of the election. This typically segues into an argument that Trump won by tapping into economic rather than racial anxiety. It wasn't no damn economic anxiety in 2016. Get the fuck out of here. Rich white people were still making a fuckload of buttload of fucking money. The fuck changed? Ain't nothing changed. Obama probably was more beneficial to y'all than to poor people, even though he just tried to even the playing field a little bit. That man tried to do this much, and it still didn't even make this much difference. And y'all had to say all this bullshit about that. This typically segues into an argument that Trump won by tapping into economic rather than racial anxiety, anger about trade and the decline of manufacturing, or the fallout from the 2008 Great Recession, which he saved the country from, by the way. These morphos, these authors got me, yo. Like when I say I've been going through PTSD since November the 8th. Ooh-sa. Let me bring it down. Astaghfirullah. Allahu Akbar. Hey, white America. I'm sorry. I'm just saying, man. Y'all gonna be mad from the first episode. I got a special treat for y'all from the first episode. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like, and the only thing I'm gonna do is exercise my religious rights to say a prayer. I'm not saying it for the downfall of America. I'm not saying it for the downfall of nothing. I'm saying it for my own personal protection against people who would not like what I'm doing here. You know what I mean? It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be awesome. It's gonna be, yeah. You is smart. You is kind. You is important. It's like, now let me stop here. Let me leave my go viral alone. A new study shows that this response isn't as powerful as it may seem. The study from 3 political scientists from around the country takes a statistical look at a large sample of Obama-Trump switches. It finds that these voters tend to score high on measures of racial hostility and xenophobia, and were not especially likely to be suffering economically. They were not poor. White voters are racially Republican and anti-immigrant. White voters with racially Republican and anti-immigrant attitudes switch votes to Trump at a higher rate than those with more liberal views on these issues. The paper's authors write, we find little evidence that economic dislocation and marginality were significantly related to vote switching in 2016. This new paper fits with a sizable slate of studies conducted over the past 18 months or so, most of which have come to the same conclusions. There is tremendous evidence that Trump voters were motivated by racial resentment as well as hostile sexism, and very little evidence that economic stress has nothing to do with it. I am so glad they said hostile sexism. If it's been one president in the history of America who was really about this man who has respect for his mother, who was raised by his grandparents, who has respect for his grandmother, who has respect for his wife, and who has two beautiful daughters. This man is surrounded by women, so of course he has respect for women. This man tried hard to even the playing field for people who have been kept down their whole lives in American history, namely minorities and women. And historically, those have been the poor people in America. Racist and sexist bigots are the ones who supposedly switch. So that just goes to show you they only voted for Obama in 2012 and 2008 just to say they were part of their wave of being part of voting for black men in America. I get it. Those were moderates that Dr. King always lambasted. You know, like, listen, man. If you still hung up on the accent, you can kiss my Alaska African ass on your way the fuck to hell. I've been here since I was 13. I'm about to be 34. It's been 20 years, yo. I know what I'm talking about. I've lived and walked and dealt and argued and made peace with and made up with and this and that and just, yeah. You know what I mean? I've spent more time in this country than I have in my own nation of birth. I'm just speaking on some truths, yeah. So, you know what I mean? And I know the consequences. The only consequence I'm not looking forward to is death. If it happens, it happens. But I don't want that to be a consequence of this. But that's a very likely possibility because this is America. This is America. This is like, now let me stop. What's up, Childish? You was a fool, Childish. You was a fool, yo. It's like, now let me stop. What's going on though, bro? Hey, Atlanta? Y'all gonna get robbed of the Emmys, you know what I mean? But still. Oh, y'all got robbed of the Emmys, but yeah. This isn't just a matter of historical interest or ideological axe grinding. Understanding the precise way in which racism affected the 2016 election should shape how we think about the electorate in the run-up to the 2018 midterms. More broadly, it helps us understand the subtleties of Americans' primordial divide over race, and why racism will continue to fracture the country politically for the foreseeable future. That's why the people who've been affected by racism the hardest, I'm asking y'all, man, to please harness that collective power that Dr. King wanted us to harness. If Dr. King hadn't been killed, that collective power would have been harnessed and would have been strengthened over. Oprah, you know I'm right. You know I'm right, man. You know I'm right, man. You know I'm right. Yeah, people know I'm right. Kanye, nah. I'm not calling you a dumbass name. Still dipping in that, see that Kardashian Punani. Get the fuck out of here. The study found strong evidence for racism and little for economic anxiety. The three scholars who wrote the study, UCLA's Tyler Rennie, UC Riverside's Lauren Collinswood, and Princeton's Ali Valenzuela, drew on a database that has information on more than 64,000 American voters. Inside that huge sample, they restricted their analysis to white voters who switched their presidential vote from 2012 to 2016, most commonly from one major party's candidate to the others, but occasionally from a third party in 2012 to Clinton or Trump. That's a good way of doing it. A good objective middle. Yeah, that's a good way of doing it. Mind you, now I seen this article. I hadn't read the whole thing yet, so I'm just like, you know, if I hadn't had been working on this project, I'd have read it. I'd have read it all done and be done with it. You know what I mean? Like, I would have absorbed the information and retained it. You know, it would have been in the cobwebs of my mind. You know. They then split the sample of white voters in two, between working class and non-working class voters, and then try to figure out what the vote switches ran in common. To do so, they ran tests on three different types of questions: scores on the test measuring attitudes towards racial minorities, hostilities to mass immigration, and measures of economic stress. Example, whether a person's family income was lower or higher than the median income in the county where they lived. The result was quite striking. First, attitudes on race and immigration were crucially distinguishing characteristics of both Trump and Clinton switches. The more racially conservative an Obama or third party voter was, the more likely they were to switch to Trump. Similarly, the more racially liberal a Romney or third party voter was, the more likely they were to switch to Clinton. Second, class was largely relevant in switching to Trump. Keeping racial attitudes constant, white working class voters were not more likely to switch to Trump. The white working class voters who did switch tended to score about as highly on measures of racial conservatism and anti-immigrant attitudes as wealthier switchers. The wealthier white racists want to keep staying rich and white supremacy alive and kicking. They want to stay keeping the black man down. That's nothing new. I know that's a phrase, that's an old phrase, keep the black. But it is not new. Nothing is new under the sun, especially under this American racist sun. Nothing is new under it. You know what I mean? I'm just saying, man. Nothing is new under it. You know. Third, the correlation between measures of economic stress and vote switching were either weak or non-existent. There is just little evidence supporting the economic anxiety or economic populism explanations for the Trump surge. Just like Tea Party was full of shit. We find a much stronger association between symbolic racial and immigration attitudes and switching for Trump and Clinton than between economic marginality or local economic dislocation or vote switching. Renee et al. Writes, in fact, we find marginally small or no association between any of our economic indicators and vote switching in either direction. These findings reveal the subtlety and importance of America's racial divide. The Renee et al. Findings may seem counterintuitive. How can people who wanted a black man to run the country somehow become attracted to Trump because of his racial demagoguery? Because they were just showing face. They were just trying to keep the conversation. You know what? Let me read what they're saying. How can people who wanted a black man to run the country somehow become attracted to Trump because of his racial demagoguery? The unspoken premise behind this question is an assumption of a certain kind of white redemption narrative. By voting for Obama, white America exercised its racial demons. But the truth is nothing of the sort. For one thing, Obama lost a white vote by 12 points in 2008 and 20 points in 2012. I could fall asleep on that piece of nugget. I could fall asleep on that piece of nugget and call it a day and call it a night, and I'd be done. I'm out. Like, I'm out. I could. I'm gonna say that part again. The unspoken premise behind this question. No, let me go back to the question. How come people who wanted a black man to run the country somehow become attracted to Trump because of his racial demagoguery? Demagoguery. Sorry. Sorry, guys. The unspoken premise behind this question is an assumption of a certain kind of white redemption narrative. By voting for America, white America exercised its racial demons. But the truth is nothing of the sort. For one thing, Obama lost the white vote in 2012, lost the white vote by 12 points in 2008, and by 20 points in 2012. So you see how I say black and brown America, if we go out and vote if we would have went out and voted every year for every election while Obama was president, our lives would have been better off today. Not better off like Whitey's life, because Whitey and him right there. Like, they're right there. We've always been right there. Like you can't even see us, you know what I mean? We've always been right there. We inched a little bit where we were wearing our head. Like we would literally stand there wearing our head just like this. We would literally stand there just like this when Obama became president. Because we went out and voted in troves. But we only did it in 2008. We didn't do it in 9, 10, 11. And we did it again in 12. In the presidential elections every 4 years. But those are not the only elections. They're not even the most important elections. The most important elections everybody now know, and they made some elections. Like this one coming up in 2 weeks now. You know what I mean? I'm just saying, yeah. Put it that way. Obama won elections the first time by losing the white vote, and the second time by losing the white vote. They didn't even go vote for him. It's like Black Panther. Put it this way, alright, let me put it in the context that you will understand. If you're black in America, you probably saw Black Panther already. You know what I mean? Black Panther made a shitload of money. Imagine if white America would have went and saw Black Panther, how they go and see like Titanic or any of the Captain America movies. If people are sitting there thinking that, oh, but white people went and saw, I'm talking about levels. It's levels to this shit, motherfucker. There's levels to this shit. If the same amount, if white people was gung-ho about going out and seeing Black Panther as black folks did, it would have crushed all records. Avatar's records, Titanic's records, all of that. Star Wars, it would have crushed all that shit. Yes, it would have. They know I'm right. They know we're right. You know what I mean? The same applies to that. Barack Obama lost the white vote twice. We had enough. There's enough good-hearted white folks in America. There's a lot of good-hearted white folks in America. A lot of them voted for that black man because they know he was the right man for the job twice, and he was the right man for the job twice. They did. But we just did not. In 2014, after Obama won the presidency in 2012 against Mitt Romney, in which he lost the white vote by 20 points. He lost the white votes by 20 points in 2012. 2 years later, only 36% of eligible voters went out and voted. A lot of those were all white racists who wanted to make sure that there was a Republican majority who was going to keep holding Obama's mandate and his agenda hostage. And they did. Like a black man in America and a black mother historically in America, that man made do with the little bit he had going for him. And they said Obama is not a great. Hey Cass, now you see why I told you why I went up for you on the boss here? Now you see why I went up for you on the boss, my nigga? Come on, dog. How the fuck you gonna sit there and say Obama was the worst president ever? Go ahead with that, man. George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, and Kennedy and Reagan will slap you from their grave. Because they envy Obama's record. The only person who might envy Trump's record is probably William Harrison. Presidential historians know where I'm going with it. I'm talking about the first Harrison now. I'm talking about the first one. You want that was replaced by Tyler. Say, hey man, I know my shit. Fuck out of here. The fuck. I digress though. How can people who wanted a black man to run the country somehow become attracted to Trump because of his racial demagoguery? The unspoken premise behind this question is an assumption of a certain kind of a white redemption narrative. By voting for America, by voting for Obama, white America exercised its racial demons. But the truth is nothing of the sort. For one thing, Obama lost the white vote by 12 points in 2008 and 20 points in 2012. And both of those wins were landslide wins. So just imagine, he won by landslide and he lost the white vote both times. And white people, the majority in this country. The majority of the white folks did not vote for him both times. They voted for his opponents both times. And he still won. Black power. Oh yeah, yesterday was the 50th anniversary of when, who was it? Tommy Smith and Carlos, what's his brother name? Carlos, the Mexico City Olympics. But yeah, it was 50 years ago yesterday that they put up the glove fist to signify the Black Power movements. It was awesome. It was also the day after the Black Panthers party was formed by Huey Newton and them. Read up on your history, yo. That shit is fun. History is awesome, yo. We're living in historic times right now. If black and brown go out and voting trove starting this year and just continue on, especially every 18 to 24-year-old, like that's black or brown in America, go vote for anything that's not Republican. Go vote for the Democratic Party. I can't even say don't vote for anything. Go vote for the Democratic Party. And then we can change the party from within. So in about 10, 15 years, the party will have a lot more minority representation. Trust me. You know what I mean? You know what? I just had this wild, crazy thought in my head, right? I'm gonna make the world a promise. If I still have my life and my breath next year around this time, if I still do, whether I am in West Africa or not, I will do like a 2-hour YouTube video. I don't have to do 100 hours anymore. I might even have to do 2 hours. I will just do like, because after I do this, you ain't gonna see me do this again. Not anytime soon, probably not ever. You know what I mean? I can't say ever. No one knows what will happen ever, you know what I mean? But I have no intentions of wanting to keep doing this anytime soon. I just want to get a message out. But I promise, if I am still alive and kicking, to make some noise, I'll probably be in West Africa. Trump would have deported my ass. I ain't mad at that. I want to be there in my baby's life anyway. I ain't mad at it. Go ahead, Trump, do what you do, man. Ain't got nothing but love for you. Do your thing, boy. You know what I mean? I promise, if there's enough of a blue wave enough, I promise every year by election day, wherever I am in the world for the next 10 years, because when somebody gets deported out of the United States, you have to wait 10 years before you have to apply again for visits to come back to America. I didn't know much for that. Every year for that first 10 years and continue on, as long as I'm alive for the next 50 years, for the next 27 years, as long as God is keeping me alive, I will take 30 minutes every year, 3 weeks before election time, around the same time, 2 weeks before election time in the United States. Even though I will be in Africa, 2 weeks before election time in the United States, I will literally make a 30 minutes appeal. 30 minutes, that's all, I promise you. I don't have to read anything after that. All I have to do then is point out the numbers that went out and voted the year before and what that representation is doing in the progressive forwardness for minorities in America. That's it. The numbers will tell the story. And the numbers are just bound to increase because 17-year-olds this year are gonna be 18-year-olds next year. If there are if there are 9 million African Americans or Latinos, let's say just as African American, there are 9 million African Americans in America right now that are 17 years of age. That same, let's say, by some hookah coup, police in this country stop killing black men and women for no reason. All those 9 million grow up to see another birthday. Crossing my fingers here. All those 9 million grow up to see one more year and they're 18. That's 9 million more voters that's gonna be added to the rolls. And you've turned 18. You have about 49 more to go. Once a year, that's it. And maybe after this year, with enough representation in Congress, the law can be changed where election days is on a Saturday instead of a Tuesday, the middle of the work week. It would be perfect if it was on a Saturday. You know what I mean? I'm just saying, because I had that thought. I'm doing as best as I can to make sure that people know what I'm trying to get at here. Like this is of the essence, yeah. This is quite literally of the essence. The timing could not be more crucial. You know what I mean? I am still stuck on this one paragraph, yo. Like because like I have literally had this paragraph in my head for so long. I've told so many people since 2009, yo. Almost every conversation I had, because I get into political arguments all the time. And most arguments lead back to politics because that shit control and dictate every facet of our fucking lives. Decisions are made, laws are passed, legislatures make decisions that affect you without you realizing it. If you're not participating in it, you're losing out. You know what I mean? Taxation without representation. DC, come on now. You know what I mean? All that. Maybe, just maybe, that can happen. You know? But I'm still stuck in this paragraph. I'm sorry, man. But let me move forward. By voting for Obama, white America exercised its racial demons temporarily. But the truth is nothing of the sort. For one thing, Obama lost the white vote by 12 points in 2008 and 20 points in 2012. For another, voting for Obama once or even twice doesn't automatically mean that someone is not prejudiced against black people or immigrants. It's possible to support Obama in particular while maintaining overall anti-black or anti-immigrant attitude. In those cases, some other factor like the Iraq War catastrophe or financial collapse may have predominated over white voters' racial hang-ups in the 2008 and 2012 elections. The 2016 election was different. One reason is that Obama's second term featured a significant moment of racial conflict. Yeah. Did you notice after Trump became president, there was less of a there was a reduction in how many black men who were being unjustly killed by police officers, you know what I mean? Like, there was a narrative when Obama was president, when all those black men who were being wrongly killed, there was a narrative, especially by white racists and fear-mongering entities, especially Fox News and them. There was a narrative that was being perpetuated in the black man's mind that, oh, look at your president, he can't even protect you. And you talk about you want to vote for him. He's a black man, he can't even protect you. What you think, you know what I mean? There was that narrative that was being perpetuated, you know what I mean? That's why the dumbass Lil Wayne had the audacity to sit on the track in 2015. Black president ain't doing nothing. One of the real niggas up in the White House. You know what I mean? White House ain't nigga jump me. You little me just so stupid. So now let me stop. But yeah though, there was a narrative. That's why I said this now to my shorty at the time she look at me like I'm crazy, you know what I mean? She look at me like I'm crazy as hell. Then I told her that, oh, now we about to hear less and less We're about to see less and less, even though it's always been like, we're about to see less and less here, less and less more of police killing innocent black men. It's not a change in policy, it's a change in racial representation for the whole country as a whole. That's all that was. You know what I mean? You know what's so funny? Speaking of that, like the first time I thought about doing embarking on this project, which was like last year in December 2017. When I say it took me months for me to even walk up the nerve to even record the first video that I recorded this, which did not have any of this background to start. You're gonna see. Before I walked up the nerve, the idea I had for opening this, I was trying to get a couple of people. The idea I had, the opening scene, I was gonna be, it was gonna be police chasing a black man and his girlfriends in the car, and when they turn into the street and they stop, and the police come out the car, and with his gun pointed, said the black man that's driving the car, and all of a sudden, right before he's getting ready to pull the trigger and shoot, you remember how the Wayans brothers had their theme song before the series got canceled? How they had how they had it. You know, I mean, something like that would happen where it would just transition a segue. It would like a fade to black, and then it would cut to me saying, "Oh, America got a white president again. We don't need to be killing innocent black men in the streets." That was gonna be my opening for this. You know what I mean? Like, the ideas are there, but like my man does say, financial insecurity stifles creativity. You know what I mean? Like doing something like that costs time and money, and it's hard to find. You know what I mean? You can't, but you know, and y'all get where I'm going with it. Yeah, like this is systemic thing, man. You know. The 2016 election was different. One reason is that Obama's second term featured a significant amount of racial conflict. The Black Lives Matter movement was founded in 2013. The 2014 killing of Michael Brown in Ferguson and subsequent weeks of protests and unrest kicked off a massive and racially polarizing national debate over police violence against African Americans. The second reason is that Obama's very presence in office was racially polarizing. Michael Tesler, a scholar of the University of California, Irvine, has documented in detail how Obama's very presence in the White House polarized America along racial lines. Yo, when I say that is an excellent read, it is, the website said, is University of Chicago Press. Like, just find it. It's I digress. It will make sense that this effect will grow stronger the longer Obama was in office, setting the stage for a major backlash in his final year. Third, and arguably most importantly, the two candidates turned the election into a kind of referendum on American race relations. Trump kicked off his campaign by calling Mexican immigrants rapists and vowing to build a wall between the US and Mexico. He vowed to ban Muslims and described black lives in America as a hellscape of violence and poverty. Mitt Romney's 2012 campaign was not nearly so overt, which means it was less likely to attract voters who held latent racist and anti-immigrant attitudes. Mitt Romney is not a pig, you know what I mean? He's not a racist pig, but Trump is. That's why Trump could come out and say that shit and people could vote for him. You know? Clinton, for her part, positioned herself as a champion of racial justice. While Obama's rhetoric on race was typically post-racial, positioning the country as more united than divided. The country was. It's just those 62 million racists want to keep it divided. The country is more united than divided. It's just those 62 million racists just want to keep it divided, yo. They want to keep this shit like it was before the Civil War and it was during the Civil War. That's all the fuck that's going on with them. Clinton got out front on issues like police violence and immigration. There are plenty of valid reasons for this. Clinton was more worried about failing to turn out minority voters. Obama was more worried about alienating skittish whites. And there was no way to respond to Trump's campaign without tackling race head-on. That was going to be a hard task. Obama was not in a position because the way Trump came out and the way the things he had said, the way he had set it up, he had tapped into a white backlash that stemmed from 2007, 2008. He had tapped into, and whatever Obama was going to come out and say was just going to galvanize some more of the white voters that were feeling their white lash in their hearts. Obama was in a lose-lose situation, and he knew that. He was a prototypical, stereotypical black man in America, always in a lose-lose position. That's why I hate. That's why I went off on that dumbass old black man who said Obama was the worst president ever. That black man who was alive. Yes, I just call him a dumbass. Yes, because he is. He was alive when Dr. King was killed, and he has the audacity of hope. What's up, Barack? And he had the audacity to come out his mouth and say Barack was the worst president America ever had. That shit got me. I'm just saying, man. People know right now. So a lot of people hear my voice, see my face. They know how I've gone off on people like that. Oh, I'm not gonna get violent. My words alone will sting. Trust me. I'm just saying, man. Like right now, it's just so much anti-Obama shit going on, especially in the black community. I know African Americans get surprised when I say especially in the black community, but I hear it. I see it in the lower level of society. Motherfuckers are still calling that government phone program Obama phones. The only reason that man's name is linked to that phone is because he's black and more poor black folks use those phones. Like it had to be one of the. The results, though, is that racial issues became the key political dividing line in a way that they were not in either 2008 or 2012. Now, Rene et al. Statistical analysis cannot show all of this on its own. You can never draw conclusions this large from one statistical analysis, as it could suffer from any number of problems. However, this analysis of the election is supported by a wide and deep body of research, the vast majority of which shows that concerns about identity and race were the decisive issues in the 2016 election. This was true in the Republican primary and the general. It's also consistent with research on far-right parties in Europe, whose xenophobic appeals are similar to Trump's. There is a complete lack of statistical evidence by contrast for the economic anxiety theory. That's why I said Angela Merkel is she's been one of the best world leaders in the last 20 years. I say one of the best because Barack Obama is number one world leaders of the last 20 years. Yes, he is. Nelson Mandela wasn't a leader in the last 20 years. Desmond Tutu wasn't a leader in the last 20 years. So, by virtue of those two not being leaders in the last 20 years, Obama has that. Mandela left office before 1998. So, yeah, I know what I'm talking about. You can search the world right now. You can search the world all over in the last 20 years. The world's greatest leader, the greatest world leader in the last 20 years has been Barack Hussein Obama, the 44th President of the United States of America. Take that for data. Sorry, now let me stop. What's up, Fizz? American politics are likely to get only more polarized on racial lines. Trump and Trumpism are for the time being the core of the Republican Party. It's always been the core of the Republican Party. I get the fuck out of here. The Republican message on race and immigration will match his as such. Republican Representative Duncan Hunter, California Representative Duncan Hunter, for example, is running a nakedly anti-Islam re-election campaign against Democratic challenger Amar Campa-Najjar, who is a Mexican Arab Christian by background. If you're voting in California and you see Representative Duncan Hunter's name, please don't vote for his dumb ass. He's a racist pig. Yeah, I say you're a racist pig. I don't even know who you are. All I know is your name is Duncan and your last name is Hunter. That's too much racism. That's just too much. That's just the motorboat of racism right there. The motorboat of racist names right there. Duncan Hunter. So if you see the name Amar Kampaneja, please vote for, you know, Amar. The implications both in 2018 and in the long term could be significant. Rene et al. Compares this period to the post-civil rights era, a period where the historically democratic South transformed into the modern-day red America, primarily in backlash to the democratic embrace of civil rights. I told ya, man. That's why Nixon became president about 40-some years ago. Because during the civil rights movement of the 60s, right around the time Kennedy was killed, Dr. King was killed after, RFK was killed after, you know what I mean, all that. That's when this Republican Party became this Republican Party. That's why when people say the Democratic Party used to be the party of slaves, I get it. But that was the Republican Party. The Democratic Party of then is the Republican Party now. Don't get that twisted. Don't let them fool you with the names since the names are similar. You know what I mean? I'm just saying, man. But this is from Rene et al. Talking about the implications, right? History suggests that significant changes in voting across party line, particularly for the presidency, precede changes in party identities, the basis for realignment. This sequence of events played out during the Southern realignment, i.e., Democrats voting for Republican presidential candidates but maintaining their party attachments. And here we provide evidence that it may be happening again after 2 terms with a black president and during an era of mass demographic change due to immigration. Racial conservatives and those with the most punitive immigration views are moving right and were the most likely to switch to Trump in 2016. Our data suggests that the same is happening in the opposite direction, as those with racially liberal or pro-immigration views may be sorting into the Democratic Party. I'm telling you, man, please, man, we gotta get rid of the Republican fucking Party, yo. Has to be, we gotta make sure that Donald Trump is the actual death knell of the Republican Party in its past and current and future manifestations. This prediction may or may not turn out to be accurate, but it's plausible, and there is no use burying our heads in the sand by pretending this is about class when it isn't. It's about race. It is about race, it is always about race, and it is going to be about race. Alright, this is an awesome read, right? I don't know if I have time to finish it in this episode, but this is from theguardian.com. It's from September the 7th of 2016. I was still living in the East Coast then, so. It is titled Justice Denied, The Human Toll of America's Public Defender Crisis. Years of drastic budget cuts have created bottomless caseloads for public defenders, the pack mules of the system, and tipped the scales of justice against the poor. Part 1 of a 3-part series reported in partnership with the Marshall Project. By Oliver Laughlin, video by Lawrence Matthew Leger. What if I'd done more time? Question mark. Across the US, it is a question, what if I had had more time? Question mark. Across the US, it is a question public defenders often find themselves asking the most. With a young pregnant African-American woman in Lexington, Kentucky, where Senator Mitch McConnell represents. So if you ever go to an election ballot box and you see Mitch McConnell's name, vote for his opponent. Okay? Especially if you're an African-American in Kentucky. I digress though. With a young pregnant African-American woman in Lexington, Kentucky, who faces minor fraud charges, laid down in April, still be in jail if her lawyer at the time to appeal against an improbable $40,000 bail bond. Yo, That pregnant African American woman probably did something minor and fraudulent to feed herself. So if she can't even feed herself and she has to probably steal to feed herself, what the hell is she gonna afford a $40,000 bail bond? Could a 50-year-old illiterate white man in Cole County, Missouri, charged in August with vehicular assault and facing over a decade in prison, ever be assigned an attorney with the resources to defend him? How many of the 30 defendants present for a single mass plea hearing in Louisiana's 16th Judicial District in July would be would have pleaded not guilty if they had more than 20 seconds of legal counsel? You see, these are these judges that this Senate and this administration is putting in place. Those 84 judges that this administration and this Senate has put all over the country, these judges decide these bonds and these pleas and these cases, you know what I mean? The fates, the lives of millions and millions, tens of millions of black and brown poor folks in this country, including white poor folks, are in these people's hands. People who are not that poor, people who can afford things that they know the people that are facing them cannot afford. Most of these judges grew up in families who believe that slavery should have never ended. If it was up to some families in this country today, I guarantee you, I'm not lying about this shit. Some families still believe that slavery should be alive and kicking right now, yo. Get the fuck out of here with that bullshit. Slavery is alive and kicking in many variations, but come on, man. Ain't nobody got time for that dumbass bullshit, man. How many of the 30 defendants present for a single, quote, mass plea hearing in Louisiana's 16th Judicial District in June would have pleaded not guilty if they had had more than 20 seconds of legal counsel? Hello? Good morning.
How are you?
I can't complain. I'm here. Hey, hold on one quick second, okay? How many of the 30 defendants present for a single, quote, mass plea hearing in Louisiana's 16th Judicial District in June would have pleaded not guilty if they had been more than 20 seconds, if they had had more than 20 seconds of legal counsel? In 1963, the landmark Gideon versus Wainwright Supreme Court ruling enshrined the constitutional right for indigent criminal defendants, those who cannot afford to pay for a lawyer, to access legal counsel. For 53 years on, bless you, for 53 years on, as the rate of incarceration across the country has more than quadrupled, and up to 90% of criminal defendants in the U.S. qualify as indigent, this cornerstone principle of the justice system has been eroded to the breaking point. As Ed Mahonan, Kentucky's public advocate and chief defendant, says, we're in a crisis in Kentucky and in America.